Here we go. All right. Good morning. Hey, high school. So this is our second week of Christmas lights. And obviously we're on YouTube, not in person. We'll be back in person in a couple weeks. So we're going to take the next 2 weeks off so you can spend time with your family, go to church with your family, whatever it might be. There will be like a mini short lesson, kind of like on near Thanksgiving, that I'll post on YouTube. So you can just watch that and um, kind of think through some of the questions. But we will come back with our next series in January. So look forward to that. Should be great. So today we're going to keep talking about Christmas. My voice just cracked. That was awesome. And, the first kind of thing I want you guys to be thinking about is an experience that you had that was so good, so exciting, so epic, incredible, hilarious, whatever, that you couldn't really explain it to other people when they asked about it. And you tried to, and eventually you gave up and you're like, okay, you just had to be there. I feel like we do this a lot when we're talking about like really funny things that happen and we're explaining it and someone's staring at us like, okay, then what? And we're like, okay, no, you don't understand. You just had to be there, right? It could be maybe a vacation you went on and it was just hard when you came back to explain it to someone. Something really delicious you ate, like the best pizza or the best cookies, or whatever it might be, right? Something totally delicious. I felt this for sure when I went to the Taylor Swift concert for her Reputation album, and it was awesome and it was amazing. And we all had little like wristband light things that were all like programmed so that wherever we were in the stadium, it like all the lights did this cool thing. And see, I can't explain it. But then it came out on Netflix, right? And people like, oh, I saw it on Netflix. It was super cool. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, you had to be there. You had to experience it, right? Um, and so basically, some things in life just can't be explained. Sorry, there's the question. This is the some things have to be experienced. They can't be explained. You just can't try to put it into words. Um, and we're gonna apply this to Christmas. So during Christmas, I think it's hard for us to make it through Christmas without hearing about baby Jesus and the manger. And there's Santa and elves and all the Christmas movies and whatnot, but um, even if for people who don't believe in Jesus, who aren't Christians, like they still hear about baby Jesus at Christmas time. There's nativity scenes everywhere. It's just hard to get through Christmas without hearing about it a lot. And I think sometimes there we might not totally fully understand how great and exciting this moment was in history, or in our lives, right? Because I think one of the things that can get in the way is we talk about how great and amazing it was that Jesus came to this world, but then we look at the world that we're living in and we're like, okay, COVID happened, right? Life is really hard. We can't see our family as much as we used to. Like our extended family. We have to be careful around people. We aren't going to school in person. Like there are some hard things in life. We see a lot of pain. We see a lot of suffering. And sometimes it's just kind of like, how does this work? How can we be all excited that, God is so good, and then we see how hard life is. So that's kind of what we're going to talk through today a little bit. So I know that you guys have probably heard the story before. We read it during Bible study this past week, where it's in Luke 2, and it's the like traditional Bible story of Joseph and Mary having Jesus. And I feel like we've heard it so many times. It's just the story. But this time I want you guys to like really listen to it in a way where like this is history. Like this actually happened. These were real people. There is historical record of this outside the Bible as well, at least like the kind of context. So these were real people who were experiencing God this way, and these people expected God to show up in a very specific way. And so just put yourself in this story. How might you have responded in this scenario? What might you have thought? What might you have done? So this is how the story starts. My slide is wrong. I want to tell you this. I can't edit these slides, which is really unfortunate. This is Luke 2. We're not in Luke 1. We're in Luke 2. So Luke 2. In those days, Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. So there is historical record of this, right? This was the first census that took place when Quirinius was governor of Syria. And everyone went to their own town to register. So Joseph also went up from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to Bethlehem, the town of David, because he belonged to the house and line of David. He went there to register with Mary, who was pledged to be married to him and was expecting a child. While they were there, the time came for the baby to be born, and she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. No guest room available for them. I think we remember this probably from like when we were really young. I remember this being like a huge part of the story. Like there's no room in the inn, but think of it this way. If you were God of the universe who created everything and was all powerful, and you were going to show up on earth and announce your presence to the world for the very first time, how would you do it? I'm guessing that most of us would at least dress up a little bit. Like we don't even go to our friend's house unless we're showered and all clean, nice looking. But when God of the universe makes his first arrival, he picks showing up as a baby, naked, small, helpless, completely dependent on other people for his survival. That was how God showed up in this world. For most of human history, this is like really important here because for most of history, God was seen as angry and distant, and even some other cultures, that believe in different God, like they still view God in that kind of way where he's distant and you have to like make him happy and you got to like offer all these things, you got to appease him. But then when God actually shows up, he shows up in our world as an infant, which shows us that he's really humble. It shows that he's kind. And he showed up to let us know that he really does get us and understand us, because the way he shows up in the world the exact same way that you showed up in the world. So if you're ever kind of in that situation where you're like, does God even understand? God experienced what it was like to be human. He experienced what it was like to live on this world the way that we live on this world. He put himself in our shoes. Any experience or feeling you felt, Jesus experienced that. He experienced betrayal. He got frustrated. He watched his friends die. He had a close group of friends. He experienced all the positive, wonderful joys in the world. He knew how to throw a party. So there's a lot of being human, all the things being human. Jesus fully understands that. So this is a God who understands us, which is amazing. So again, if you ever wonder like, oh, God wouldn't even understand, I don't want to talk to God about this, he wouldn't get it. But the whole Christmas story is proof that God does get it, and that Jesus does know and he does understand what you're going through. So the story of Luke continues. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news that will cause great joy for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you. He is the Messiah, the Lord. This will be a sign to you. You will find a baby wrapped in cloths and lying in a manger." Suddenly, a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace to those on whom his favor rests." When the angels had left them and gone into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let's go to Bethlehem and see this thing that has happened, which the Lord had told us about." And the line that is really cool in that, I really love the good news of great joy. Like, it just sounds so positive. And if you look at this, the message that God is bringing at this time of year, is exactly what he was saying, or exactly what the angel said it was. It was good news and it was great joy for everyone. By showing up and making the announcement to a group of shepherds, even more importantly, God could not have been making his point any clearer. God's love for all people at all times and all places. The shepherds, I'm sure you maybe have heard this in church, but they were kind of considered like the lower part of society. Like They were stinky, they were poor, they were out in the fields. Like that's where they were. They weren't in with everyone else in like a community. They were like poor and stinky. So go over there. And that's who God chose to show up to. Um, if you think of the person in your school who no one wants to sit with, that's exactly who God would go and sit and eat lunch with if he showed up at your school. And so you really can't explain a God like that. It's just unexplainable. He loves all of us. He's experienced exactly what it's like to be us. And that is like the really great news. The reason that the Christmas story is true is because no one could really make this up. If someone was going to write a story of God showing up in the world, this isn't probably how they would write it. Like they wouldn't make this up. When the angels delivered a message like this to a group of people, like the shepherds, they have to go and experience Jesus for themselves. They say, if God has done this, if God's like this, if God showed up to us, then we have to go. And so the shepherds look at one another and they're like, all right, let's go see this thing that happened. Let's go experience this for ourselves. And they did. And they were changed forever. If you look at the next little bit. So they hurried off and found Mary and Joseph and the baby who was lying in the manger. When they'd seen him, they spread the word concerning what had been told about this child, and all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds said to them. But Mary treasured up all these things and pondered them in her heart. The shepherds returned, glorifying and praising God for all the things that they had heard and seen, which were just as they had been told. So I don't know how you feel about all this, but this is like amazing, right? And I think if we're looking at this whole idea of like fully experiencing it, like the shepherds had to go and see for themselves, they had to experience it for themselves. That is whoops, sorry, I thought I had another slide. That is advice for us too. We should do what the shepherds did. We need to go see for ourselves. Sometimes we have to experience it ourselves. We've got, other people can share their experiences, but personally, like if we experience it, it's so much stronger. So how do you do that? How do you experience Jesus this season? Not just hear about him, but fully experience him. The first step is keep showing up. Keep coming to our youth group stuff. Be connected to student ministries. Show up every other week or watch the YouTube video. Process through the questions. Stay connected to your leaders. But also like with your family, when your family is watching service, connect with them, be with them. Keep showing up. That's where we're really going to learn more and we're going to experience more. So that's really the first step, is to just keep showing up. And then the next one is one that I think we encourage a lot. And I hope that I think you guys all feel pretty comfortable where like when you hit that point and you have that question and you're like, well, this doesn't quite make sense. Ask that question. Like we are so excited to talk about those things. We learn a lot from your questions. If there's something that's making it really hard to believe, if something doesn't quite click, doesn't make sense in your mind, like please ask us questions. If we don't know, we can connect with Alex. There's just so many great resources we can pull from to try to explore those ideas. Questions are really, really good. So if you have them, keep asking them. And then, just overall experiencing it for yourself. We want your faith to be a faith where you have learned, you've read, and you've experienced. And from all of that, you're creating your own faith. So it's not just the faith of your parents. It's not our faith. It's your own faith. So that's something we want you to experience. We want you to go see for yourself. So I hope you all have a really wonderful Christmas. There are going to be some questions in the details below this. But have a great Christmas, and we will see you in January for 2021. Bye, guys.